Yes, we are back again, of course, with JSPB's SODA MAXXX here. Now, this is kind of review number 2. We originally did a review, you guys can check it out there, and we just got the kit. So we tried putting it together. We ran into like a few issues with some things, a few parts breaking. We reached out to JSPB, and they were like, here, try some of this. They've been redesigned, and it did fix some of our issues, but we still had some issues with the actual soda blaster itself. So they actually went ahead and sent us a complete one, as well as another kit for us to go ahead and try to put back together with some updated parts to see if it's gonna shoot any better. And I gotta say, this thing up close is crazy looking, right? So check this out. Look at this thing up close. I mean, I don't think I've seen anything like this currently like on the market. I could be wrong unless someone like Frankenstein something together, but this is definitely a unique blaster. Now, this does have an internal kind of inline clip here, which is awesome. And most of you guys know, usually with an internal clip, you open it up, you shove in your darts right here in the front, and when you want to shoot, typically the next dart, you gotta give it that downward flick and you shoot, that downward flick and you shoot. But this has that spring in the back, which I'm like, what a great idea. This has a spring in the back, so it always puts that next dart up against kind of the seal in the front, so when you shoot, the next out. I was like, my gosh, that is freaking awesome. Now, what I think is cool is, yeah, you can basically get, well, they recommend this type of bottle in the back. Usually the smaller ones don't really hold enough air and have the capacity. You can use larger kind of soda pops back here. You guys can check that out right there. Typically the larger one of the soda pops back here holds more volume, so when you shoot shots, it's a little more consistent in comparison to using all that pressure on your first shot and having it kind of drop down in FPS. So I just use one of these. I picked this up at like my local gas station and just use it, and it works perfectly fine. I might try something a little bit bigger, maybe later on, I'm not quite sure, but still, it holds enough. Now, one of the things that I didn't really know out of the gate on this is when you're using the different types of bottles back here, you want to make sure that you pump this accordingly. I was doing it like 14 times. I'm like, what is going on with this thing? Until it says, oh yeah, you know what, you got to pump it far more than that. So make sure when you guys do get this and you put it all together and you are testing that you pump it the right amount of times to fill up the bottle size that you are using. And again, I've noticed that when I pump this one up, I can get a few magazines or a few clips, inline clips out of this thing to shoot, and I would just run around and just pump and then go. Now, the only thing that really kind of bothers me about this thing is kind of how you have to load it. You got to take off the whole front, load it, throw this back on, and kind of go. I wish there was an easier way to do it, like maybe flip something over here and shove them in. I don't know. It's just when I'm picking up darts, I got to kind of like hold it like this, run around, shove a bunch of darts in, go. Now, I do know they have the quick loaders for this, but for me, I was just running around, throwing individual darts in and going. Now, I had a couple shots out of this shooting so hard. This thing came out at one of them almost at 140 FPS. Well, right in there was like, oh my gosh, this thing's an absolute beast. But in reality, you are going to drop down about 110, 120, maybe even 120s on the high side to get that consistency. Now, again, when you pump this thing up, look at this, super easy. I did see some people kind of changing the whole pump mechanism to like a bike pump and things like that. And I was like, you know what? Hey, if that pushes more air volume in there, great. I'm all for it. But the way this thing shoots, I think is awesome. It is so silent. Listen to this thing. Listen, ready? It is so silent. It's almost like a bungee blaster in a sense. But still, I think this is a very cool kind of ninja build. Now, this isn't the first thing that I've had from JSPB. I did have their, I believe it's called the Ninja right there, which was okay. I had some issues with it, but that thing has been sitting on my kind of back shelf because I did break apart on it and I could never figure out how to put the thing back together. Now, if you do get the kit with this, the kit is definitely organized very well, and the instructions are great. It's definitely a big improvement over the original instructions that I had. The original instructions were okay. It was kind of confusing. Some of the lengths and things like that were off in there. They weren't correct. But this newer set of instructions looks really, really good, so you shouldn't have an issue with putting one of these together. So if I had any tips for you guys on this thing, I would say make sure you glue everything, maybe dry fit it first, then glue everything once just to make sure, and make sure everything is sealed, and you shouldn't have a problem with this thing shooting. Is it unique? Yeah, for sure. Am I going to use it this summer at my local wars? 100%, because it is so unique, but I do feel like some of the parts are definitely fragile on it. They did redesign this bottom piece down here, which is great to kind of hold this bottle, but mine kind of falls out really easy, so I think I'm going to go back to the STL that they gave me to refix the one that they had. But nonetheless, this is pretty cool. It shoots great. It is definitely unique, and it is super quiet. So, you know what? I say why not? You know what? You want something unique? Go ahead and pick this up. You can't really go wrong with it, right? It's kind of neat. So let me know what you guys think. Leave it down in the comments. I am just, yeah, I want to hear what you guys got to think about this on the second review that I've done with this, now that I've got one to actually work perfectly fine, as my original one kind of worked okay, but this one works like way better, probably because they got better seals and everything in it. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Thanks again, Fox fans. Whew.